All right. Think we're good. Welcome back. How are you? How are things going today? Hopefully well. Well, I'm sure. Hopeful. Hopefully well, you're sure. I'm sure. You're sure. I'm sure. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. I'll stop rambling about intros. Um, yeah, things aren't going too bad here. Had what we call a dev day at work. Basically, time to it's mostly for developers for like lifelong learning type things to just uh, take the time to go learn something new, build some like demo or try out some new library or something. Nice when places do that kind of thing. Gives people a chance to grow a little bit, give them some of their work time to better themselves. Normally, you're encouraging people to do that kind of stuff like on their own, but when you can do that like with work time, that's a pretty good gesture from where you're working. And one of my friends was able to do a bit of a talk, though I heard that they were told that they are going to need to do this like a week before the dev day, so they had like absolutely no time to get ready, but still turned out pretty good and let them know it was a pretty good job nonetheless. uh, Thankfully haven't had to do anything like that preparing anything to speak for, though I'm sure it would be a funny little thing. And I guess I try and be funny when I'm talking. Not sure how well that comes across in a professional environment, but it's got me where I am today. Can't be too bad. All right, but just chatting today. Probably don't want to talk about work things. I probably could keep going about like the importance of like self improvement and education, but I'm feeling kind of like wanting to talk about less work stuff, maybe more fun things. So I don't know. Maybe we'll not hit the table there or desk and pull another amiibo off the shelf. And I guess today I like it looks like I'm like petting these things whenever I grab them. I promise I'm not doing it. They're just dusty. And so I don't want to blow in the camera microphone. But yeah, I should probably just dust these things more often. So we'll just go with little Mario here for this. Probably surprising I didn't grab like this guy like right from the start. He's not gonna stand there. This is probably really bad for the mic, actually. Not bad for like its physical stuff, but you're probably hearing whenever I put it on the mic, so I'll stop doing that. What to say about Mario? Like all these guys up here, like probably played a fair bit of like all of these games like growing up, so they all have like little different impacts on me. Like Super Mario Brothers for the NES was definitely the first Mario game that I ever played. That's when I started just playing. And I talked about Punch Out before. That was like the first couple games that I was able to pick up as like a 2-year-old. Duck Hunt and Super Mario Bros. Was a lot easier than Punch Out, but was able to kind of pick up and start playing Super Mario Brothers like a lot faster. I do remember gravitating a lot toward Duck Hunt. I did start playing it a lot more between like 3 and 5 years old, and was getting fairly far in the game. I'm not sure if I beat the game until I definitely beat the game before I was 8. Yeah, probably in that 5-year-old range when I beat Super Mario Brothers for the first time. But that was a nice little introduction to kind of platforming and problem solving type things. Interesting little thing. I probably didn't play too much Mario then again until Super Mario 64. Like I remember going back to some of the earlier ones. I remember really liking Super Mario Brothers 3 and Super Mario World, but I never owned them. I never owned a Super Nintendo. I didn't own a Super Nintendo until I was in high school. When a friend of mine was wanting to buy an N-Gage, and he's like, I can sell my N64 and my Super Nintendo for the last little bit of money I need to buy an N-Gage. That story aside, he was just telling it again on Twitter, like a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, I still have the Super Nintendo, it still works. That was probably when I started playing them again, the Super Mario World and Super Mario Brothers 3, and the All Stars game. But yeah, I didn't really get a chance to play those too much growing up, so I didn't really get reintroduced to Mario until 64, and that was like okay. I still enjoyed it. Like it was revolutionary. Like at the time, it looked so silly. It sounds so silly saying that. Like now, knowing where we're at, like graphically, fidelity wise, just how things control and what we expect from games. But it's definitely withstood the test of time. You can go play Super Mario 64, and it's still a good game. But it's like it was so different playing it when it first came out. I didn't own it for a bit. I think one of my cousins had an N64 prior to me getting it. One Christmas, I'm not sure when it was. Definitely wasn't when it first came out. But I had seen that with Diddy Kong Racing, and I was like, oh my goodness, these graphics, they're real life. This is what real life looks like. Apparently, it's like so close to reality. It was just like, wow, this is like the best graphics ever. It felt so good playing that game, seeing how that game played. I remember struggling a bit with it for some reason, probably just because playing games in 3D is an interesting thing, especially when no one's done it. Like when you grow up with it, that's probably something you just get a little more. So people who grew up from the N64 onward, they just grew up playing games in a 3D space. But getting used to moving around in a 3D space when all the games that you played up until then are 2D is interesting, especially when you get like an analog stick for the first time. This is probably one of the first games that I had with an analog stick. But I thought it was really cool. Wing Cap was always neat. Liked doing that, but didn't really like get super invested in it. The next Mario game that I did get really invested in was Super Mario Sunshine, which the GameCube was just like my big investment console. That was the first console I ever bought with my like own money that I earned, and a lot of the games that I had were things that I were just like, I still have them because I was so just proud that I was able to like get all the games that I did. Like not a lot of them were gifts, most of them were me like through like chores or odd jobs, just making money and getting that stuff together and getting things that I ultimately wanted to play. But yeah, Super Mario Sunshine was like ridiculous. Like all the movement in that game was just like clicked with me. It was so different than like Super Mario 64, but like kind of similar at the same time. Just the movement options were amazing in my opinion when I was a kid, and being like, oh, you can like hover in the sky and do a bunch of like just manipulation of Mario in the air. You wouldn't see that again until like Super Mario Odyssey, but it was like really, really cool at the time, and I was like glued to that game. I would just clear save files and just go through it all again all the time. There was always one I would keep that was like 100% complete, but that was probably like how I mentioned with the Punch-Out stuff, where I was like kind of learning to speed run. Super Mario Sunshine was definitely the first game where I knew I was trying to beat the game fast, and like if I had known a speedrunning community existed at that time, probably would have had some type of record for some type of category. I just played that game a ton. I remember like having like in-game timers showing like an hour and a half or somewhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours for just the bare minimum, get the 70 shine sprites and go to Corona Mountain and beat Bowser. But like it was like I would just play that game a lot to death. That was something I would just come home from school and be like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna play through all of Super Mario Sunshine tonight. I just do it a lot. So that was kind of neat. It's still one of my favorite Mario games, like in the franchise. When the 3D All Stars game came out for the Switch, I was like, I need to get that because Sunshine's on there, and I'm always looking for reasons to play Sunshine again. Then what was it, Galaxy, that came after that? Really liked the first one. My favorite part about the second one was Yoshi's voiceover sound effect. Galaxy was really neat. Just its gimmick and aesthetic was really neat, but it didn't really like super resonate with me. Not as much as Sunshine did. Then Odyssey came out for the Switch, and that was just like, wow, this is a really good game again. Like, Nintendo's been frankly knocking it out of the park for first party stuff that's been coming out for the Switch. Breath of the Wild was amazing, and Odyssey was amazing. But like, yeah, that was really just me sort of going through the motions, being like, oh, this is a really cool world to explore, and like it kind of lets you go out there and do that exploration better than like Sunshine and Galaxy did, in my opinion. Like with Super Mario 64, you'd go into a world and then you could always get to any other star that was in that world as long as you had the other extrinsic things that you needed. If you needed wing cap or metal cap or vanish cap. But with Sunshine and Galaxy, it was like you'd go in there and it's a mission. That's your mission you're doing. You're in very rare circumstances are you able to do something other than what is initially intended, unless it's like some like game breaking thing, like the Gelato Beach. You can get to the star or the shine sprite in the coconut cabana by doing some pretty interesting coconut shenanigans. I think it's coconut shenanigans. I can't remember if it's coconuts or durians. You're supposed to bring like watermelons to it so that it can like grind into the cabana juicer thing, and it will like spew out the shine sprite, but you can do some interesting fruit clips there. That's like mainly, I feel like that's how most of the stuff is. There are a few shine sprites that you can do out of order like that, but not too many. A lot of them are very mission oriented for like something that appears in the level only for that mission. Super Mario 64 had a few of those, but not as many that I can remember. I just played it too. I can't, I'm like doing a really bad job remembering. I played through Super Mario 64 and Sunshine on 3D All Stars, and I'm doing a very bad job remembering. I just did that like a month ago. But yeah, I guess another like set of games that was probably really influential, and not in the like traditional Mario. It's still canon, but not like the normal Super Mario Brother franchise games. Would probably be, what is it? Paper Mario and Super Mario RPG. Paper Mario is amazing, and it stinks kind of where it's been going. Like Origami King that came out this year was surprisingly good. It captured a lot of that character that's in Paper Mario games, but it what's the word? Like, I don't know. I really like turn-based combat, and maybe they took that out because a lot of people weren't big fans of it, but it's like that was just really cool to me. They brought it back to an extent, but like ever since, in my opinion, the last good Paper Mario was this will probably be a little controversial, is Super Paper Mario. Like it didn't have combat in it, but it was all it did have combat in it, but it wasn't like a turn-based battle thing. You weren't like facing off against the thing. It was like a real-time battle thing, but it was really well incorporated into just the overall feel of a Paper Mario game. But after that, with Sticker Star, Color Splash, things like that, like they introduced the turn-based battle system again, but there were little to no rewards for doing that. Like normally in RPGs, you do that to gain experience, but there's no levels associated to that combat in those games. And there still isn't in Origami King, but they turned it into a puzzle. like where it's instead it's turn based. You're not like just on the left, facing the thing on the right for whoever's watching this video. That was right left for me. But you're in the center of a ring for most battles. Sometimes you're on the outside of the ring for boss battles, and it's like a puzzle where you have to align them and then attack them down the line, basically. But they turned combat into a puzzle, so it wasn't like just arbitrary. It wasn't like you went in there to do a turn-based combat and you got no real reward except for like some coins. Like you still get those in Origami King, but they turned it into a fun like kind of puzzle. So you're actually working your brain a little bit while you're playing. So that was fun to see that kind of come back in a way that isn't as, it's pointless from an experience standpoint. You still don't get experience, but it was less pointless from I feel like I'm just going through motions. Like a lot of the battles weren't the same. My brain's really bad at picking up on those patterns for those battles, so it might just be my brain ain't big enough to be able to treat it like it's nothing. But to me, it was, at least I had to think a bit about most of those battles. But yeah, that Paper Mario, super great. Super Mario RPG, which as I like the spiritual predecessor to those games, just like phenomenal. I didn't play that until college, and people were talking about that like when I was growing up. I'm like, Super Mario RPG, that doesn't sound really that interesting. And then I play that in college, and it's just like, why haven't I played this game? It's so good. Yeah, again, the turn-based combat. It's that character that everything's a little funny. And you have unlikely allies by teaming up with normal enemies from the other games. It's always kind of interesting to see unfold. It's a good way to tell a story with Mario that isn't just the Princess Capture, Go Rescue Princess. So yeah, those are kind of interesting. Like just the core franchise is those 3D games eventually became that thing for me. The side scroller ones that came out never really did too much for me. They were always good to play with other people. They were good multiplayer experiences, but never really stood out as like amazing experiences compared to like the 3D ones. But oh my goodness, the Paper Mario ones are just amazing. They're so good. Like I really wanted the other ones to be like the ones in between Super Paper Mario and Origami King to be as good as the original or Thousand Year Door, but it just didn't click that way for me. Clearly, it's working for some audience. Otherwise, they wouldn't be making them in that way. But just different. It's just different, and it doesn't pluck all my strings the right way. If that's even a phrase people use. So yeah, if I'm getting to the point of making up phrases, then we're probably getting to a point where we're about done here. So yeah, that's a little bit about Mario's impact on me. Fantastic way of learning how to sort of ramp up level design. That's a whole thing in and of itself, and there are other videos on YouTube that do much better at describing how Mario level design goes. Game Maker's Toolkit's a fantastic YouTube channel for checking that stuff out. Mark Brown does an amazing job going over that level of detail. But like it was a great gameplay, a great level design, sort of masterclass, figuring all that out as I'm growing up, not knowing I'm learning, but learning all the same. And then those Paper Mario games just really drilling home good character design, good character dialogue, and just good storytelling. Just fantastic storytelling. Really good. So you get to learn a lot, like from following that franchise around. But I digress. That's enough. We'll call it at that. Almost 20 minutes. Jeez, I gotta hurry up and end this before it's like way too late. Thanks for being here. Have a wonderful rest of the day. A great weekend. And we'll see you next week. See ya.